All Beings, y'all. Let's get it.
Put your hands together. Put your hands together.
Can I get a man?
Amen.
Yeah! Woo! Welcome back to Calling All Beings. I'm your host, DJ, here with the homegirls, and we got a special guest co-host for you tonight. And you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about my homie, Tim. We about to get to him. We're talking about Calling All Beings, baby. We are back. We're not playing no kind of games with you. All right? Especially Courtney. All right.
Does that mean I need to stop playing games behind the scenes where no one can see me?
No, Deb, we're not going to take away one of your prized activities in life of playing games. You and Nathan like those video games. So anyway, welcome back to Calling All Beings. I'm your host, DJ, and here with our illustrious co-host, one of the original gangsters of CAB, and that is, of course, a study of UAP, Debs.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here. And I'm good.
Go
It's
ahead.
good to bring my amen back to you, DJ, because I did not get to do it on Father's Day.
Yeah, we didn't get to do it on Sunday, but you know what, Debs? We were thinking about you. You know how much we and Cab Nation loves you and adores you, so it's all good, man. You know, you take the night off when you got to take the night off. And you and Courtney are like, yo, got business to take care of. So you guys were peacing out, but we're all good. Yeah, there's Julie with the mood music. Yeah, that's what's up, girlfriend. Hello in the chat to Julie and Charlotte J. How's it going, brother? And Courtney connected. So we got curly hair. We have cool glasses. We have the cool look. You know, we can do some of this and some of that. Right? Deb's doing it right now. You just can't see her. Doing some of this, right?
I look
how you
pretty
doing?
much just like Courtney, just so you know. That's what I think. We're like sisters.
From other misters. What's up, Connected?
What's up, y'all? Good to be back. I can't wait to be back with the Cabby crew. I missed you guys on Sunday, so I'm all up to speed and ready to go and kick it into high gear.
Yeah, we're going to talk to Jim Myers tonight of the Untold Radio Network, the owner of Sasquatch Outpost, the store that he owns, which is the show by the same name, Sasquatch Outpost. But before we do that, let us bring in our special guest co-host, who has been a guest co-host before. He's been on Cab a couple times. We done been on his show. Used to be a baseball scout because he knows what talent looks like. Okay? And this brother right here is an author of the book, and also his show is by the same name of the book that he wrote, which basically burst upon the Bigfoot scene and got to know everybody by virtue of putting them and what their sort of contributions are to the topic into his book. So the author of Bigfoot Influencers put them together for Tim Halloran.
Evening, everyone. Special is you can take that word special in a few different ways, but I am just thrilled to be with the three of you. I've been stoked all day getting ready for this. So how are y'all doing?
Big time good looking brother. Sorry. Go ahead. I get to talk to this guy all the time, and I'll tell you what y'all see on air about him when you talk to him in person, just what a wonderful human being Tim is, and his his wife Dana, Tim and Dana. I was about to talk about their son because they have a couple sons, right? One of them just got his PhD OGG, right?
Way smarter than me, yeah.
Oh, please, Tim, come on. Does he know the difference between a slider and, a curveball? Come on. All right, where did he get his PhD OGG from?
University of Delaware. Yeah, he spent 4 years in undergrad at University of San Diego, and then finished up his graduate program at University of Delaware back home.
Awesome, man! Congratulations, brother.
Thank you.
To you and Dana. His wife is awesome.
And big shout out to Julie in the chat, and
yeah,
thank you for what you do, Julie. You're amazing. And I see our friend Jay's in the chat, so I'm glad Jay joined us tonight.
Yep, and Julie's helping us out with our very, very special project, which Tim knows about, which Courtney's heading up, which when Nathan gets back from Europe, his European tour, and he makes us a branding logo, we're going to announce what we're doing. But we've done a lot of work on this. Deb has analyzed what we're working on and fed into it. I've been working on it, and basically it's kind of like Courtney has me on like a choker collar, kind of like a Rottweiler just trying to hold me back from what we're getting into. But yeah. So anyway. All right, and tonight we're going to talk to Jim Myers, and Jim Myers, who is finding his microphone. Dad, is that microphone under my cowboy hat? Right now is out in Bailey, Colorado. He owns the Sasquatch Outpost. And Jim Meyer, and let me turn the music down a little bit because it's probably way too loud up in here. Okay, that's a little better. Yeah. Jim Myers is a Bigfooter that has had all kinds of experiences. And Tim, please step on me if I say anything correct. From the very, very flesh and blood to some encounters that had some aspects of it that he couldn't quite explain to, I need to put a background on, don't I? We need a background. Where's our background? All kinds of different things that he's had. Actually, I don't need a background because we're going to take up the whole damn screen. There it is. There's a background back there. Oh, we're not going to see it. Yeah, see, it's hidden right now. But anyway, to maybe even potentially with the orbs, UFO related experiences. So he's had quite a bit, and we're going to dive right in tonight. And so we ain't playing around with nothing. What do you got to say about him in terms of what you know about Jim Myers, Tim?
You know, I think Jim's just what I really love. Jim's real, and he is. I've never met him in person, but we've chatted a bunch of times, you know, through what we do here, and he's genuine, and you know, you can talk to him about anything. He opens his doors, his ears to everyone who walks, calls him. You know, he takes reports, all kinds of reports over there, or over there in Colorado. I'll say over there, like you guys know where I'm at. But yeah, he's been, you know, he's in it. He's like neck deep in it, and he's been out in the woods. He's had some weird, interesting things that happened to him and other people that have been on expeditions with him. And he's just a fascinating person. And I think he's we're better off having Jim like Jim, you know, in this subject, just keeping it real, you know, open-minded.
He really kind of like, I'm thinking wonderful soul from my conversation with him, because, and you'll find out it's really funny probably to Courtney and Debs, but the Bigfooters all use Facebook. Facebook is like their Bible, like whereas we're on Signal and all this kind of stuff. And he called me, and my phone's ringing, and it's the Facebook Messenger app that's calling me, and it's Jim, after I had messaged him. And I'm really thankful that he did that, because our first conversation was probably 45 minutes long, and we had another conversation, and then planned out to have this. So I'm really happy about that. What does this thing tell me? Video backgrounds are now supported in the studio. Oh, okay.
I could share a funny story if you'd like me to,
sure,
about Facebook audio or phone calling. So when I did the first book, I called Thomas Steenberg, and not thinking, you know, he's in Canada, but I'm just dialing his phone and got the phone bill and said, whoa, I had to pay for that? So after that, every other conversation, I said, Thomas, can you know, I know he knew he's a Facebook guy, because like you said, they don't do anything else. Some people don't. And every other conversation was Facebook phone call, because it was free.
So Nathan brought us into the Signal app. I'd never heard of Signal. WhatsApp I was familiar with. I knew it was encrypted. But when we started Cab, he said, "No, we need to use Signal, and we'll start our first Cab group chat." We have the same group chat we had from day one, and Signal. Not only can you send all kinds of files, video, different types of Word docs, PDFs, things that you can't send on Facebook Messenger, but you also have all encrypted phone calls. And that's so like Courtney and I spoke on that today. So if we're talking about something that we think might get us in trouble with somebody, a good place to talk about that is on Signal. So, and Deb and I also talk on that. So I would encourage anybody out there. I am not in advertising. You don't pay for it, so it doesn't matter. They offer that you to make them donations if you want. You don't have to. Signal is a really, really good platform for having phone conversations, and you could call someone in Chinese Taipei, and it's not going to cost you a penny. So anyway, so hopefully Jim Myers will be on soon. I don't know, maybe Courtney and Debs want to ask him something about the latest that you've heard and through all the interviews and people you speak with. This is probably Jim.
No pressure there, Courtney and Deb.
Well, actually, I had a question that's related to the show I was listening to this week. It was called like AB or CAB or something, and they were talking about neurodiversity. And I was wondering if you think that is an issue for experiencers, that there's a greater number of people that may have some neurodivergence, and that increases their connection to the paranormal in some way.
I hear we talk to a lot of people, and that's such a great point. And you don't know. I think we don't know. I think some people in general are more in tune to their senses and open to experience things around them than others. I just think there's switches or something inside our neuro, pathways, and some of us are more in tune to our different senses, or could be, and I think that could be possibly it. But sometimes though, you wonder. See, the one that just gets me with the people that I hear about or I talk to, the experiencers, are the ones when there's multiple people. Those are the ones that blow my mind, because you can explain off a misidentification, or you can explain off a like you said, they're just in tune to different things, so they might be hearing things differently than other folks. But when you have multiple people hearing or seeing, experiencing the same thing, those are the ones that kind of get my goat going. I mean, what do you guys think about that when you have multi-person experiences in any phenomenon?
I think it's amazing. Yeah, I think it's underreported how often cases have multiple witnesses, and people just discount that, like they're not paying attention. Like there's some cases that have been like thousands of people. And China came out in a conference in the 90s and claimed that there was a spiral in the sky seen by millions of people. So it really is strange to me that people still think this is just like one person in their backyard saying they saw a UFO, and it's over and over again, multiple people saying it at the same time. Courtney, what is you going to say about that?
Well, I think it validates, when there's multiple witnesses, obviously, I think it validates, I mean, you hear a lot of times this disparaging thing that these certain individuals are having hallucinations and other things, and they try to like discount the personal experiences. So I actually think when it's a multiple witness case, it provides, evidence that, that there is an actual anomaly. So I think that the multiple witnesses, the better. I personally don't discount individual experiences, but I do think it gives more validity to a case when there's multiple witnesses.
Yeah, when we interviewed Terry Wendell from Rock Hill Bigfoot, real quickly, they were out in Alabama at a piece of property called the Meadow. I think we have some friends who know where it is, but it's secret location. I don't know where it is. in any case, they went there to research Bigfoot, and they had a whole group. They had a little command center table, and they had I think they had 3 teams that were deployed to different areas, and then one person would be back, or maybe 2 teams, and 1 or 2 people back at the command center table. And what they ended up seeing was one of the groups saw what looked like a box in the woods, a translucent type of a box, and the people at command center with the night vision had eyes on, and they walked inside the box and disappeared from sight. And when they got inside the box, they said, okay, let's just back straight up the way that we walked in here. And they backed up and came out of it, because they only went a couple steps in and were like, oh my God, what just happened? I heard Terry tell the story, and there's another individual. His name is something Jackson. He's an EMT from Atlanta. And I heard him interviewed on another show, and he told the same story that Terry told. In addition, there is a woman who turned up at their site in the middle of the woods, driving a Mustang, wearing heels, with her son, and door flies open. She gets out with like what appeared to be like a 15-year-old, and said, oh, you guys are out here researching Bigfoot, right? And they're like, how the hell did you know that? And she started to tell details of what they were doing and new things about people. And someone said, I went to this college, and she goes, oh, I went there. Did you know Professor so-and-so? Really weird things. It was a bizarre encounter in the woods to have. As you would know, Tim, you're out there, it's butthole dark, and somebody drives up in a car and gets out in clothes that look like they just rolled out of, some sort of a investment banking agency or something, right? Brokerage house, I guess we would call it. And that's what happened to them. And it was very bizarre. So I'd like to find out that guy's name so I could hear that. The cabbies, I sent it to cabbies way back when I found that interview. But had you heard that story, Tim?
I have not. That's fascinating, though. It's you just, until you talk to somebody, you don't know what they've experienced, and I love it. It's just you don't discount anybody because they experienced something. We can't. It's not up to us to decide what they saw or didn't see.
And and then we had at least 2 people. The rest of the people, they're professionals. I have reason to believe there's law enforcement in that group, and they don't tell all the members of that group. So anyway, Meadow.
And I did have a conversation recently. Actually, I think it was a few days ago. I was with Dr. Esteban Sarmiento, who's a primatologist, who's big. He was brought into this Bigfoot world, even though he's still a skeptic. But he did say he had talked to a couple witnesses, and one of them's got a pretty high profile name, a last name, but I won't get into that. And 2 of them thought they saw something, and one of them saw Bigfoot, and the other saw a coyote, and they were looking at the same thing. So I thought that was pretty interesting. These are his words, but yeah. So you never know. I just think it's fascinating. You can't discount it. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of reports.
This reminds me.
Go ahead, my friend.
I was just going to say that another aspect to this group sighting thing is that it's often families. Like a whole family is being chased by a UFO, or, I've heard that on several occasions, or they're all looking up and they see it together. And they don't necessarily have other witnesses outside of the family telling them that they saw it. Sometimes they do, but it seems like families get targeted as a whole sometimes. I don't know if that happens with Bigfoot. Does that happen with Bigfoot also?
I don't hear about, I mean, if they're together, possibly, but I think because most people have one experience and that's it. When it comes to Bigfoot, and it doesn't happen, it's not a recurring thing. Because typically they're remote in an area, unless they're habituators and they live in an area, and when Jim jumps on, he'll probably have tons of examples of that. But the people who have the habituation experiences where they have Bigfoot claim to be on the property and the whole family interacts with them, and then it's interesting to hear how they interact differently with the different family members. So with kids might be one thing, and I think I was hearing talk to one person, and they actually might have been Tom Powell, and he was involved in a couple famous reports in the past, and one of them, and it wasn't Tom Powell, forgive me, I think it was Tom though. He said that there was a family of Bigfoot that was on the property, and because the human family were trusted by the animals, they knew that they weren't a threat to them, they weren't trying to hunt them, they were killing them or kill them. They felt comfortable with them, and they would leave their adolescent Bigfoot near them, and while they went off and did their thing, and so almost like the humans were quote unquote babysitting them. They weren't physically, but they were on the property within eyesight, and they just would leave them there because they trusted them. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
I'm thinking that might be what happened with me last year at my family farm. You haven't heard kind of my own habituation story, but I think that actually fits in what my family has experienced. My sister heard a shrieking, screaming sound that was horrifying, that she said put the back of her hair, the hair raising on the neck. And my aunt heard it over on the other part of the farm. And we own about 300 acres between my mom and my aunt. It's an original farm. And so my aunt heard it all the way across the valley. And so I didn't believe it. I heard it, and I figured, well, they heard something. Maybe it was coyotes or whatever. But, then we had these other experiences on the farm. And so I'm starting to think that there must be something there, and lights, the screaming. And then I had this experience where I saw two lights. I went out to dinner with a friend and parked my mom's car and in the woods, and there's nothing back there, but there was two lights, red lights, just looking into the driveway. And so I was at first like really curious, like, what is that? Because there's nothing there in the woods. And my mind was trying to figure out, what is it, a reflection? And of course it's not a reflection because there was nothing there. And then the whole night ensued, and whatever it was came and laid a whole trail of wood for me. And and I had electrical disturbances. I couldn't call out. I couldn't call anybody out of the house. So it was bizarre. And so I think it might have been a juvenile because of the way it laid the wood in. And then there was like an arrow pointing into the woods where I saw the lights. So
our guest is here, but I just want to say this, Debs, I feel like if there's one person in our group who would go on one Bigfoot outing, have an experience, and then be hooked as a Bigfoot field researcher, it would be her down there. So anyway,
she's up there
Tim,
to me.
Party people,
Tim more.
put your hands together for Jim Myers.
I am so sorry. This was a comedy of errors, but
Amen, Cowboy Jim. Yeah,
I'm here.
Jim, I heard the last one who comes in has to sing a solo.
Where are you tonight?
Can you do Ring of Fire instead? I'm just kidding. Ooh. Anyway.
I was in a bar in Seattle and I put Ring of Fire on. It was called the 5 Spot. And they turned it off and almost kicked me out of the 5 Spot. Because I put Ring of Fire on the jukebox. Yeah, they were like,
oh, wow.
Get out of here. I was like, this might be a fight.
These people don't know great music. Johnny Cash.
Yeah, seriously.
One of the legends in the history of music. Are you nuts? Okay, before we get too deep into that, Jim, we have only about 30 minutes left with you, so we need to make hay while the sun is not shining. So, first of all, let me ask you this, brother, man. Let me put you up in the top, up here. Put you where I'm at. There you go. We gonna switch spots.
All right.
Jim. All right. So first of all, the way the cabbies are, we're very question heavy. So as you are, sort of telling us some of your experiences, cabbies will inevitably want to ask questions. So be aware of that. Whereas some Bigfoot shows, people are doing an hour of story time before anyone else asks a question. Cabbies, not that way. Anyway, Jim, my brother, you have had so many experiences that are prosaic and non-prosaic. So I would ask you, what experiences have you had that led you down the path of there's something going on here that I can't quite explain with flesh and blood, etc.? Could you detail some of those?
I can. Before I do that, I'm getting music in my ears, and I'm
That's
not
me.
sure. That's you.
No,
okay.
that's me.
All right.
I'll make it.
Just wanna
I'll
be
make
sure.
it lower.
Just
We
want
want
to
to
make sure.
add mood to what you tell.
I got you. I got you. No worries. So, well, this has been going on for about 12 years for me, and maybe a bit more. And I knew that there was something going on that was beyond. So I'm far from an aper. I'm as far opposite from being an aper as you can get. All right, and I assume you know what I mean by that. So I'm 100% in the woo camp, and Sasquatch are people. They're not animals. They're not apes. I could go hours talking about why I think that, but and I just realized I got the green glow around my hat.
It's all good,
even
man.
with my green screen.
Like the forest, though, man. It's all
It's the
in
forest.
Colorado
It's the
forest, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I started off like most young researchers thinking this was an ape, and I was going to figure out a way to find them in the woods and sneak up on them. And it didn't take long. And I decided early on that I was going to follow the evidence wherever it led me, even if
How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you not figure this out and just go wherever you think it is at first?
Even if it led me to conclusions that I did not like or didn't understand. And so stuff started happening almost immediately that told me, okay, this is not an ape that you're finding in the woods. They're way too intelligent. They're way ahead of you every time you're out there. Everything we tried to fool them would never fool them. And they just beat us. They beat us at every turn, trying to treat them like a relic primate, North America's great ape, etc. And I remember telling other researchers, who've been doing this for 30 years, and I would say, how in the world can you think that this is an ape when they are not only talking to people in their heads, but they're when you're interacting with them at a gifting site, the way that they're doing that shows a high degree of intelligence versus coming in with a primate level of intelligence, kind of like a bear, and just scattering everything you've got and saying, this, which a bear would do. A bear doesn't care. And so we found that not only were they interacting with us, but they were leaving things for us that told us that they were thinking about it. There was foresight in what they were thinking about, and they saw us coming before we ever got there. So we've built a good relationship, I think, with some of the Sasquatch in our area, but everything about them now tells me that they are what I always thought they were, that they're people. They're just a different kind of people than we are.
Debs.
So I actually am very interested in different kinds of people than we are, like Neanderthals, for instance. And I feel like we really do deal with this strange psychology where people can't get it in their heads that we used to live with other hominins. So I was just wondering what your thoughts are about that. Like, if I told people you're all, mix of different hominins, like, they would not care. Like, they're like, nah, they would just brush it off. But it is a real thing. We used to live alongside other hominins. Why do you think that people have such a barrier with that idea?
Because we're modern society, quote unquote. So my favorite saying that people tell me, favorite, unfavorite saying is, it can't be, therefore it isn't. And so when back in evolution, when we were at the level of a Cro-Magnon or a Neanderthal, Sasquatch was probably very normal thing for us to see and interact with, and we were at a more base level. I think now their level exceeds ours. They can change their vibration, and they have to change their vibration to adjust to us rather than the opposite. And so if we see them, it's because they decided that they were going to allow that to happen. And for whatever reason, maybe they had a different intention. Maybe they were, have been watching us for a while and decide, okay, now's the time that you get to see us. But I think it's interesting. I was just with a group of people who were doing a seminar in Bailey on how to interact with the forest people. And the Navajo guy, who was the main speaker, anytime there were some spirit trees on this property that have a lot of significance, and he believes Bigfoot's involved in them. And anytime he senses a Bigfoot nearby, he starts giggling like a little kid, and it's the funniest thing to watch, and kind of going, ooh, and I remember asking him when the session was over, we were outside around one of these trees, and I said, tell me about this giggling. And he said, the reason that happens is that Sasquatch exists at a higher level of frequency than we are. And that higher level of frequency is characterized by joy and happiness. He said, fear is the opposite of joy and happiness. And he said, when they come around me, I sense this overwhelming joy, and I can't help it. And I thought, who wouldn't want that? I mean, who doesn't want to experience more joy and happiness in their life? And I thought that was the coolest thing I've heard probably in years about Sasquatch, and I believe it.
It's amazing the connections that some of you have, because I'm gonna get Courtney in here, but I suspect that some of these that are in your local area probably know it's you when you get there and they come around. Whereas if somebody else gets out of their truck, they might not come out except to try to shoo them away. So
yeah, and they could, and they know how to do that, obviously.
Yeah.
They act like an ape and everybody runs away. So
yes, as would I. Court, go ahead. Well, actually I won't, because if I hook up with Jim, I'm gonna have to be a man and stand tall. Go ahead, Court.
Okay, Jim, you missed out on a little bit of my preamble before I came in, but I'm just going to reprise. I'm just going to reprise a little bit of information. I'm not going to go too much into my own case, but I pretty much grew up in the woods when I was young. I spent large amounts of time in my childhood just out there, right? Hanging out, doing things I shouldn't have been doing, making fires and camping out there all night long, right? But I never had a belief in Sasquatch. But I did believe in spirit trees and all of that because, when you're young and you have all that magical thinking and you're in the forest, you kind of believe that everything is alive.
Sure.
So recently on my farm back in PA, family farm, inherited multiple generations, I had experienced lights like orbs and things, but I had an experience where it was actually kind of debatable whether it was a Sasquatch. And so it did seem to have a sense of anticipation or knowing I was going to be there and kind of knowing my movements. And you mentioned that, and you're on the woo side. So I'm not going to hesitate in asking you, What do you think that is? Because we see it in the UFO community too, where there's like some kind of presentience of your movements or where you are or where you're going to be. So I'm real curious about your hypothesis about these beings. What's your feeling or your own ideas about that presentience of knowing where you're going to be or being aware of humans in the vicinity?
That comment that was just put up about surprising a Sasquatch acting surprised. I've heard that, and it surprises me that they're surprised. But I think the moment we enter the woods, we're entering their home, and so I think they sense our presence because we are a disruption in the force, if you want to use that term. We're a disruption in their norm, and so they know we're around. We smell different. Our vibe is different. We put out vibes that I think they can read, whether it be fear, skepticism, whatever. And so I think they see that, and the time when they're going to show themselves to us, I believe, is when we have demonstrated to them sufficiently that we have no ill intentions, that we were not seeking them out to make money off of them. We're not seeking them out to hurt them or kill them, because many people are. And so the day that I have a close sighting, I've had sightings, but the day that I have a close encounter, it's going to be tough because I'm going to want to tell a lot of people, and I may decide that I can't because of what that represents to them. That may be our agreement. We'll show ourselves to you if you don't exploit us. And so, but I think they have, I believe they have no interest in interacting with us if we have intentions that are what would I use as a word, that are
exploitative in nature.
Exploitative intentions.
Yeah.
Just like you wouldn't, go to a Native American tribe or a tribe in the Amazon, and your whole purpose is to get rich because you've discovered this tribe, and that changes the whole way you approach those people. And as opposed to, I want to learn from you, I want to know you so well I can communicate with you, I can hear when you're communicating with me, and there's an exchange of ideas. To me, that would be the ultimate goal with Sasquatch, is we can communicate at a level that's deep. And there's people, I think, that have arrived at that, perhaps at that level of communication with them.
Yeah, as I transition over to Tim Halloran from Bigfoot Influencers, I'll say that I've heard a number of habituators who... So are there habituators or people who claim to be that aren't? Yeah, there probably is, but there probably also is a number of them that are having these habituations on their property, kind of like what you have had, Courtney, but like they come like every day. And they end up having so much respect for this creature, this humanoid creature, that they won't go out there with their iPhone and take photos, even if they think they can, just because they don't want to ruin that relationship and trust that they'll turn tail and not come back. Tim, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so Jim, I was, and again, thank you for being here tonight. Based on what you were just speaking of, it made me, and we had a brief conversation earlier. Do you think some people are more in tune to have experiences, and and if they are, why do you think it is that way?
Yeah, I do, because I think those who are looking for an ape are going into the woods like you would go into the woods looking for a gorilla. I hope I can find where they are. I'm going to make a bunch of noises that gorillas make. My two brothers, I grew up in Africa. My two brothers went in to see them in Rwanda. And, the reason people can see the gorillas is because the guides know where they are. They know where they hang out. They know where they eat. They don't know exactly where they are, but they know the signs of where they can find them based on how they've gone through the foliage and things. And they stink. And there's a lot of things that can tell you where the gorillas hang out. And so I think a lot of researchers approach this like they're seeking to find or capture a gorilla, and where they're going is actually going in to find a person, a tribe of people who are way ahead of them, and they don't see anything usually, I would say, because the Sasquatch realized who they were and what they were about. And so Sasquatch is very capable, when they don't like us being around, of sounding completely animalistic and ferocious and terrifying. And, but that's not how they have to act. That's not how they have to behave towards us. Most people's interactions with them are very quiet, for one, very brief. They will appear to the person and then just be gone. And very, very seldom will that Sasquatch show any aggression towards them. And there's a 1,000 YouTubes out there that it's clickbait. The title is attacked by a savage Sasquatch, and you watch the YouTube and nothing happens. This guy goes out there, he may have a brief glimpse of a Sasquatch, and you're like, where was the attack? I don't see. But they were terrified because of their preconceived ideas of what Sasquatch is. And so that's their overwhelming sentiment, was terror, when that wasn't what the Sasquatch intended to project towards them. And so I've talked to way too many witnesses whose lives were radically altered by their horrific experience with the Sasquatch, when all that happened was that the Sasquatch showed up, didn't approach them, didn't show any aggression, and then disappeared. And that was enough. They were done. And so, so it's unfortunate, but now, the day that I have one of them walk out 5 feet away, I'm probably going to clean my pants. It's because they just are so huge, so otherworldly to us. And we think, so many people have told me, I'm looking at something that doesn't exist, and yet it's there in front of me. And so, we told our whole lives monsters don't exist. Well, they do in a form. But they're people like us. If you take a Scandinavian man and a pygmy man, you would think they were from different planets, different rate, different species, different planets, different language, different appearance, different culture, and yet they're both human. So, these are just hairy, massive humans.
I think we tell ourselves, we're ready for this. I'm ready to have that Class A daytime sighting and this is one, Courtney and Debs, where, they come out from behind a tree and they walk out onto the trail, like Rebecca Slick from the help me out, the name of that project in Washington State. I can't remember the Olympic project. Thank you. And then in the case of UFOs, I'm ready to see one of these craft land right next to my car on the side of I-40. And then it happens and you're not ready for it.
And you're like, no, don't take me. Don't take me.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a very, I hate to say nobody, because we don't want to say nobody. Most of us are not ready for that. There are some people that have had it happen and are able to maintain their cool, but they are few and far between. Jim, and I want to say this, I think the way that these guides are finding the gorillas over in Africa is because the gorillas are forgetting to turn off location services on their iPhones. And the guide is just able to open the Find My iPhone app, and they're
absolutely.
I think the Bigfoot's too smart for that. They turn location services off. That's why we can't find them when they're making phone calls.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to get some of these questions from the chat in because
Sure.
Charlotte J has a question, and we don't have a whole lot of time left. We're probably going to go about 10 minutes over, so we can get a little bit more of Jim Myers till we have a part 2 when we get him here for the entire hour. So, Jim, question from Jay, who is a wrench over at Untold, and he's also going to be a wrench over here at Cab. And do you believe that the inverse could be possible, that our intuition leads us to Sasquatch or UFOs? Sorry, this topic fascinates me. That's why we're all here, Jay. Do you believe that our intuition leads us to them as opposed to them facilitating this encounter?
Hey, Charlotte.
In every case.
Nice to hear from you. She's a Sasquatch Outpost buddy.
It's a he. I found out.
Oh, Charlotte J. Oh,
yeah, it's Charlotte, as in not his name is Charlotte. He's from Charlotte. So
Charlotte J.
If he inverts those two things, like J Charlotte, nobody will get that confused. Anyway, go ahead,
Mr. J from Charlotte.
Yeah.
That's a great question, and I think we have abilities that we don't utilize, that we probably were more in touch with, we being the human race, before. But there's gurus who can stop their heart from beating just from meditation. I mean, they can lower their heart rate and actually stop it, and so they can increase their temperature, lower their temperature. Those are things that for most of us seem like science fiction, and yet it's very possible, and it's documented. And so I think we have probably innate abilities within us that we have to get back in touch with. We all have them, like the hair on your back of your neck going up when there's a threat nearby, and you don't know why you feel that, or you're in a room and you sense somebody staring at you and you turn and they're looking straight in your eyes. And how did you know that? There's something, these innate abilities that most of us just don't develop, that ends up, for some, taking them into becoming mediums or psychics, or and there are real mediums and psychics. They're not all charlatans, and they've just developed these abilities to read people that most of us don't have. Now, Sasquatch, I think there's probably ways that we could find them, and probably I think there's people who today who have developed that sense to the degree that when they walk into the woods, they immediately know there's a Sasquatch over here, there's one over there. They sense their presence by whatever ability they have, and I don't doubt them. I don't doubt anything anymore. I've seen so many things. I don't doubt anything. I mean, I try to keep a very open mind. I'm not a fool, but man, there's so many things I don't get that so many people have abilities to do. I enjoy being with people who have those abilities because I learn from that.
That's not being the fool, Jim. That's being open to learning. The fools are in any endeavor, not just Bigfoot or UFOs or whatever, are the people who think they know it all, figured it all out. Even if we're talking about physics, right? We use the term now known physics when we talk about UFOs, because people that say, well, obviously it doesn't agree with physics, so it can't be real. Well, it doesn't agree with known physics. We don't necessarily know it all. Court, could you read this one, please?
Have there been any mind speak incidents where more than one human is being talked to at the same time? Same message.
Julie Farrell.
Now, that's a great question. I know of many instances where a group of people were being spoken to, but they're hearing different things.
Interesting.
What's interesting, on a side note, is that most people who hear Sasquatch don't hear words; they hear pictures, and they don't hear it here; they hear it here. Ooh. And so this is too crowded with distractions. This is not. And so they'll talk about, just like people who tell me that they hear God here, not here. And so I think Sasquatch has to get past the busyness of our brain into our soul, but they get pictures rather than words, although some people would say, I've heard them speak English and they speak it well. And so, but you know, it's have I heard? I don't know that I've heard of a group of people all hearing the same message at the same time. Doesn't seem very far-fetched, to be honest, but I've just never heard of a situation like that. I think it could easily happen.
That's a great question, Julie, and not a surprise that you would ask a great question, because Julie, who's in our chat, she's our moderator here, and we're going to make Jay one of the moderators over here as well. But Julie is one of the great intellects for paranormal. She's part of Dr. Simeon Hind's Bigfoot support group, and they have a weekly meeting, which actually is Thursday. You guys have seen him in paranormal. I think you were in that movie too, right? Were you in? I saw you in a movie recently, Jim. I don't know if it was Paranormal Bigfoot or another one. Was it? No?
I don't think I was in Brett and Jill's either of their movies. There's one that's been seen a lot recently called The Bigfoot of Bailey, Colorado, and its Portal. That one's got several 100,000 views, but
I just saw Jim literally a week ago in a Bigfoot documentary. He probably doesn't remember, but Courtney goes from Alaska to Montana and then sometimes back to Pennsylvania. So Courtney, if you want to go on a Bigfoot expedition, I have somebody right here.
Oh,
Bailey,
Jim's
Colorado.
my guy. Jim is when Jim came on, it was like I'm like, he's the one. So guy. I'm going to Colorado to meet Jim, and I'm going to do his thing for sure.
We got some trips coming up.
Good.
You still got room.
Right on. I'm there.
So I've got a physical question to ask Jim. So Jim, I know you've had experiences with folks you've talked to, and it consists of horse hair braiding. The tail or the mane. Can you share some of the stories about that?
Happens all the time.
I've heard a number of them.
There's a pasture literally across the road from my house, and it's got, just a second, I gotta turn this off.
Is that Hendrix?
Got
thought that was Hendrix on your ringtone.
No, it was Pink Panther.
Oh, okay.
So
love that movie.
There's a pasture. There's about 20 horses. Had I thought about it, I could have uploaded some photos. There's currently, I think, 5 horses that have braided manes, and one of them, the braid is so huge that it looks like a Christmas wreath hanging off of this horse. So they've obviously pulled hair in from the tail. Very often the braids are much longer than the mane, a foot longer than the mane, which means they've brought in additional hair, like adding extensions to the horse's mane. I've got here, I'll show you something, just a second.
And what's really interesting about that team is that a lot of horses have a very, very visceral reaction when Bigfoots are in the area, but clearly
I just happened to
ahead,
have two braids. This one was off of one horse from here in Bailey, and
wow,
got it. See, I get it. If I can
pull back just a little bit. Wow, man.
So
that is so dope.
It's always 2 braids down to 1. Same with this one. This one was from one of the horses where we do our expeditions, and so both the horses I use in our horseback expeditions have their manes braided. There's 8 horses on that property at one time. There were 6 of them that had braided manes. no people are coming on these properties at night. And horses, by and large, in the middle of the night, are not going to let a person they don't know walk up to them and braid their mane. They have to remain very still, if you think about it, to braid 2 long braids and then braid normally their heads are up and down. They're feeding constantly. And they're prey animals, so they don't like people just walking up to them at night who they don't know. They're never going to stand still. And yet Sasquatch manages to do this all the time. And so
that's actually going to be the crux of my next question. But before I get there, I want to say to everybody, if you're watching, if you would go on YouTube, click on your link, because you're obviously watching this on X, or you're watching it on YouTube. Please go on YouTube, give us a subscribe if you would, give us a like. We're on a whole bunch of podcast platforms. Spreaker is our new host, thanks to some advice from a friend of mine who's here on the show with us, who's really, really bright, and his name happens to be Tim Halloran. So I'm very happy I'm very happy with Spreaker. So, Jim, what is really interesting about this is that there are many accounts that you've heard, that Tim's heard, and that I've heard, where horses absolutely freak out when there is a Bigfoot in the area. They become extremely frightened. They will gather together. They'll run away. They'll do all kinds of different things. They'll try to snap their bridle if their reins are tied to a tree, all these kinds of things. But somehow, some of these creatures are able to snake charm, if you will, the horse into standing there and letting them walk up and do these braids. So that is fascinating, and we really don't talk about that they clearly are able to develop this quick friendship with a horse to allow them, because as you said, a horse is a prey animal. They fear everything from snakes, dogs. They fear basically everything in the wild.
Well, the way the horses react depends on how often they're seeing Sasquatch. So on the property 2 hours south of here, where I did a live podcast from our camp, and interviewed all the people that were with us there. That was last Tuesday, and those horses on that property, out of 8 horses, one of them doesn't like the Sasquatch. The others don't care. The Sasquatch come on the property, they scream. The horses don't even react. And so, in fact, one of the horses, when we've been out in the wilderness with Jill, my business partner for Rabbit Hole Adventures, we've been out with 3 horses, a pack horse and 2 riding horses. And at night, one of the horses she'll be looking into the dark, and she'll be going, the only thing they do that to is humans. And they do that to humans when you wake up in the morning and they want their breakfast, and they're calling you. They're purring basically to get you to come to them. They don't do it to any animal. So she's looking into the black woods, seeing people and calling them into the camp. Now, that's not always what we want. We're like, hey, Stark, cut that out. Quit calling the Sasquatch into the camp. But she's not at all bothered by him. In fact, she's trying to encourage him to come in, because obviously there's something they're doing that she enjoys.
Right.
There's something they're bringing
petting
her,
him,
or whatever,
stroking
petting
him.
her, whatever.
Yeah.
So horses that are not around Sasquatch, it would freak him out. And we've had horses freak out, but it was the one horse that doesn't like them that freaks. And then when one horse freaks, other horses freak, because it's just what horses do. And so, but if he wasn't there, the others wouldn't even react to him.
This really resonates.
Was he a stallion? I'm just curious. Was it a stallion or?
No, they're geldings, but he's this one particular horse's name is Storm, and he lives up to that name in every way. And I won't ride him ever, but he's just he's a cat. He's not a horse. He's just always he's always doing this, So anything like a Sasquatch coming in, the other horses are like, what? What's the big deal? And he's just freaking out. So it's just his nature.
This really resonates with me. Deb is the only one here that knows that I grew up on a horse ranch. I was riding horses before I knew how to ride a bicycle. It was called Peekskill Dude Ranch, and then we called it Peekskill Ranch after that. But yeah, I love horses, and until I was 15 or 16 years old, I was constantly either riding a horse, hiking with my horse, taking care of horses, mucking out stalls. So I know those sounds that you were making are very familiar to me.
And you know when they make those sounds. So
yes, yeah. I look forward to me. Yeah, I'm getting closer to this whole Colorado move as of this week's, or at least the information I'm getting. So I look forward to come see you and see some horses and touch their nose again.
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah.
So yeah, we are about out of time for tonight, Jim. So it looks like you are stuck coming back for a part 2.
Okay.
Because I want to dig into some of those experiences, and as we go out, just as a last sort of question before we start with Cabby goodbyes, so most of your sightings now are happening at night through therm?
No, at night, because we're seeing their eye glow and not eye shine. This isn't the pitch black
glow.
We're seeing their eyes glowing in the dark in the woods, and so that's what we're looking for. And while we were at our last expedition, we saw them both nights we were out.
That is so awesome, man. Tell me you don't want some of that, Court.
I've seen the eye glowing real close, very, very close. Actually, I have to go and do the steps, so I know what the proximity was, but I didn't know what it was at the time.
Yeah. Yep. They emit the light, and we can't figure it out. People that hear that say it can't be, therefore it isn't. So I'm afraid it is, and I have no idea how they do it, and I can't explain it, but they do it.
Yeah. There's just so much. That's what's so much fun about this is we can't explain.
No.
Tim, quickly before we go, I'd like to ask you: do you think, in terms of the disclosure, we're seeing so much on UFO disclosure? Do you think that we are getting close to anything, or do you think initial steps are being made? Have you heard of anybody who is taking steps with any government officials to sort of bring about some measure of disclosure?
Well, yeah, I heard rumblings, but nothing substantiated. I don't know. I just you hope that with the recent outcropping of whistleblowers in the UAP community that someone's going to step up. And I think people are sharing. It's not the right people. We need, as humans, we need someone official to come out and say this happened. But as Jim can tell you, people are talking about these every single day. It's not what the people we want to hear. So I don't know. I hope so. I think we aren't getting farther away, so we got to be getting closer.
I think there will be a big. We don't know what the reaction will be when that day comes, but it could be a very different reaction nationally if the government were to come out and admit what they already know. People may not react the way we're expecting. It may be very different.
Yeah, I mean, the very first conversations that I had with Tim on this topic, I said I didn't think it would be good for Sasquatch from the standpoint that more people would be out looking for them. More people would be out literally hunting them. And I really don't. And other people have made other arguments about conservation. And I just think that identifying it causes people to, in our society as it sits, people take sides. I'm either on this side or that side. And you heard Jim and I had this conversation on the phone, and he came out and said, I'm not X, I'm closer to X. So if it's disclosed, then you're going to have people are going to say, I think they should be X, and the other people will say, no, I think they should be Y. And therefore, that just opens it up to groups, community groups coming together. What are we going to do about this? People. So I don't know that it's going to be positive, but part of me obviously wants people to know we're not a bunch of nutters that believe this. So,
Yeah.
So, all right, let's go with Cabby goodbyes, starting with Tim Halloran and then to Courtney.
Well, I just want to say, Jim, you're just an amazing person. You open your heart, and you're there for anyone who wants to talk about the subject, and you're not closed-minded. So we need more people like you. I guess my one thing is, if you could, in a couple sentences, what advice would you give to new researchers who want to get involved in this?
Get in the woods and have an intention to want to learn about Sasquatch. Don't go alone in the beginning. Go with another person, and go to the same place over and over, and find a spot that nobody knows about, and try leaving some little gifts and see what happens. You may be surprised. They may come and interact with you.
Great advice. Thanks.
Organic apples, no pesticides. And
no
Courtney,
junk food.
Courtney, no bigfooting in Alaska. Repeat after me. No
bigfooting in Alaska.
No, they are very aggressive in Alaska.
I heard you say that in the last one. Yeah,
please.
I got it. I'm in the woods in Alaska all the time, but I'm in the woods in Montana and in Pennsylvania all the time too. So I'm in the woods. But my parting shot is about the hair. My nickname is Stickin' Hair. Not many people know that, but my good friends call me that because there's always stuff in there. So when I come to Colorado, you can leave me out there with the Stickin' Hair, and that'll be my gifting field to the Sasquatch in Colorado. And hopefully I get a braid out of it. But I got to say, Jim, I just feel an immediate resonance with you and everything you're saying. You just described my whole experience and my family's experience with whatever this being is, the people of the forest. I like that. I like that idea, that there are other people that are cohabitating. And I think the thing I like about what you're saying really is, humans, we think it's ours.
Yeah.
We think that's ours and that's our place. And so I think that the shifting of consciousness, if disclosure does come, will be about moving that needle to, make other humans recognize that we're sharing it, not just with the people of the forest, but with everything, right? The birds, the deer, the moose, So anyway, I really want to meet you, and
you're welcome anytime.
Yeah, I'm actually planning on maybe coming down to Colorado, so I'll look at the schedule and see what you guys have.
Okay.
Because I really like what you're doing. So thanks for being here tonight. It's been great meeting you.
Thank you.
Can I get an amen? Debs.
Okay, so I truly appreciate you coming to talk to us. I wish we had more time. I feel like we could have covered so much. I'm fascinated by why they want to braid horses hair, for instance. Like while we were theorizing in the chat, could they be trying to calm and tame the horses, or are they maybe trying to make it easier for the horses to see? I don't know, but it's fascinating. But what also, I felt inspired by was these conversations about the different people having these encounters. And I just want to throw it out there to the community that maybe someone might want to do a little demographic review of who's having what kind of encounters. I would love to see if there's any patterns, the children are having probably more positive ones. I'm just guessing. What's going to happen, say, if someone's a woman who's in their 40s who may want to babysit for Bigfoot? I would like to know. So, if you guys could find that out, I'd appreciate it.
I've heard stories about people doing that very thing. As much as we laugh, whether they're true or not, I don't know, but I've heard stories.
No, Deb is volunteering herself to do it, is what she's telling you, Jim.
There you go.
Yes.
I'm just saying, if you guys could get some demographic information on the results, I would love to know. And of course, I would like to know that I would be accepted as a babysitter, of course. So thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
And talking to us, Jim.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we have heard people who have come out in their backyard and at the fence line or so have found their children playing with the Bigfoot children and all these kinds of things. And that's parents have absolutely freaked out over that. And that's when they start putting up cameras and lights and stuff.
Right.
So we have heard those narratives and they do have a positive. And I think when you talked about people that are having a kind of very neutral or maybe not the closest encounters, I think Tim and Jim and I have probably a couple people in mind that are having certain types of encounters that kind of go along with what their view of Sasquatch is, and they kind of meet there. What I'll say about horses is kind of going back to the first things that Jim said. It is for people who have been around horses and spent a lot of time. It's people, they bring therapy. They'll bring people to pet horses who are emotionally troubled, and there's something about touching a horse,
equine therapy,
petting their forehead, and it's a very cathartic thing. And I imagine that some of these Bigfoot, and I'm using the word some because we get into trouble with Bigfoot when we say they all have a conical head. All the ones with the round head are angry. You know, we get into these absolutes, but some of them probably feel a cathartic experience by going up and touching the horse and hearing them breathe. It's a beautiful experience, and that's probably why they do that. It's probably not just because they don't have a video game controller nearby.
It's emotional healing for them too, perhaps.
That's what I was positing right there. So 10 points for Gryffindor. I'm just kidding. No. All right. Anyway, Jim, thank you so much, brother.
You're really very welcome. And I again apologize for being so late coming in. So
no, it's okay that you forgot about us. I mean,
I looked on my schedule this morning and knew this was on the schedule, and then I got distracted. I'm ADHD, so it's trying to remember things that I've got on the schedule. But it was wonderful meeting all of you guys.
We will definitely have you back. Nathan will be here. So the co-creator of the show and our producer Nathan is in Europe right now with his family, doing what we'd all like to be doing, being on vacation. He lives in Asheville, a Bigfoot rich area, just outside of a Bigfoot rich area, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we'll definitely have you back on. So you guys can find. So first, tell us about your store and what night your show appears on Untold Radio Network.
So we're on Tuesday nights, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and we're live just like you guys. And our store is the Sasquatch Outpost store and the Sasquatch Encounter Discovery Museum, and they're in the same building in Bailey, Colorado. And if you're ever out this way, we would love to meet you and have you come by.
And please talk about your group again, where people can, I would have put this up on the screen. I'll put in the show notes where they can book if they want to go out and go on the camping expedition. I know your friend has a property there as well where they're having habitation and so on and so forth.
If you go to our website, sasquatchoutpost.com, and look for the tab Rabbit Hole Adventures, that's our company that we do all of the outings with, whether that be a night hike or camping trips or horseback trips, whatever the case may be. So we've got some things coming up. We're actually changing some of the horse trips to camping trips. We have more interest in camping, and so we're going to change the nature of some of the trips, but that will all be under Rabbit Hole Adventures. You'll see it all there.
Okay. And this is where this looks like where his show is from, Untold Radio. And I'll put that in there. What'd you say? Is Rabbit Hole Adventures?
Rabbit Hole Adventures. Yep.
Okay. Cool. I will search that out and get that in the show notes. And that's basically if you want to go out on an expedition, whether camping or otherwise, with Jim, and have a Bigfoot experience. He's going to set you up with the right intention. You're going to go into the woods. You're going to make sure that you put out the right energy so that they'll come close. and that you won't be like you're at Jurassic Park or you're like that really bad kid with Willy Wonka, Augustus Gloop, or something like that. Or what was the other girl's name?
Yeah.
What was the one who was raising a big fuss? Anybody remember?
Who got turned
Yeah.
into a giant blueberry?
Yeah, exactly. You want to be more like Charlie.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right. That's right.
By the way, speaking of which, there is I don't know if it's on Netflix or Amazon. There is a Remembering Gene Wilder.
Oh wow!
Where they go over all the movies from Silver Streak. You guys, older guys here, remember that one from Young Frankenstein? How that was made? How
of course,
he and Mel
Blazing
Brooks
Saddles.
Blazing Saddles was hilarious when they went over that one, and then Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. How Gene Wilder ad-libbed that whole thing. Like at the end, they're like, "Hey, don't we get chocolate for life?" He's like, "Good day, sir." You know, like. Anyway, thank you, Julie. Thank you for being awesome. Thank you, Charlotte J. We will get you your wrench. Thank you, Jim Myers, for being awesome.
You're welcome.
And we will see y'all soon in the joint. So this is for Jim, for Tim Haller and the Bigfoot Influencers, for Courtney Connected, and for Deb. This is DJ saying peace out. One love. We'll see you down the road, and we're always wondering what is up around the bend.
Good deal.